At 30 years old, I'm still single. My mother always asked me when I would get a good girl to marry. And I also always convinced mom that it was only a matter of time, even though I knew I was lying just to calm her down. I haven't gone out to have fun in a long time, because all my friends are married, some of them even have children. At this time, I started to feel lonely. So, that's the reason why in the end I decided to give speed dating a try. Speed dating is a kind of instant matchmaking event. The event was held at a popular bar downtown. I put on my best clothes, sprayed perfume on myself, then left the house for the bar. When I reached the bar, I stepped inside and tried to be confident. I was a bit surprised when I saw how many people were present there. I counted 21 boys and 21 girls. The event host explained the rules of speed dating. All women sit at separate tables from each other, while all men are allowed to come to their tables to speak to the women in an orderly and sequential manner. The men have 3 minutes to talk to each woman. When the bell is heard, it is a sign that the time for one woman has run out and is ready to move on to the next woman. And so on. The first girl I went to was 21 years old, she was too young for me. The second woman is 40 years old, too old for me. The third is very ugly, the fourth smells bad. The fifth is a woman who looks good, until she mentions that she is divorced and has 5 children. The sixth has a history of drug addiction and the seventh has a strange head shape. I'm getting tired and almost gave up on finding the right partner that suits me. The eighth woman was a fat person, she was always sweating and the sweat was running down her face. The ninth woman's dentures fell out when we started talking. The 10th is too thin. The 11th cannot speak English. The 12th has a wide nose which makes it look like a pig. The 13th kept farting while we talked. The 14th just looked at me without saying a word, and when S stood up, found that she had only one leg and was supported by crutches. The 15th had hideous spots all over her body. I made the 16th woman laugh out loud and started throwing random things on the table. The 17th looked fine, except for when she picked her nose and then ate it. 18th looks attractive, but she has deformed hands. The 19th is in a wheelchair. When I got to the 20th woman, she seemed to have had too much to drink and was curled up in her chair, asleep and snoring loudly. Desperate and lazy, I sat down opposite the last woman. She is the most beautiful woman I've ever seen. She has long, well-groomed black hair, fair skin, green eyes, and an alluring smile. She was wearing a black dress, black shoes, and everything was black. However, she has a pleasant personality. Whatever I say, makes her giggle. Her name is Karen, she is 28 years old. She graduated as a nurse but now she is unemployed. She is married and has 2 children. But, after her 2 children died of cancer, her husband neglected her. I immediately felt sorry for Karen and praised her perseverance over all the tragedies that befell her life. At the end of the night, we were still talking and we felt really good for each other. When it was time to head home I asked for her number and we planned to go on a date night the following night. I can finally date a beautiful girl. Everything went well and we started going out regularly. Looks like we were meant to be. After 8 months of our closeness, I finally decided to marry her. Of course, she answered yes. After getting married, I moved from my small apartment to Karen's little house and started a new life. I had lots of boxes filled with old books and asked her permission to put all of my books in her basement. Just relax, she said with a laugh. I'll take the books downstairs when you go to work tomorrow. Several months have passed and our household is doing well. I think I have found my true love. Unfortunately, something happened that ruined our happy days and changed my life forever. One Sunday, I was sitting in front of the TV, reading the newspaper. Karen told me she was going to the grocery store for dinner. She kissed me on the cheek and as she was just closing the front door I told her I was going to get a book in the basement. Oh, "The door is locked," she said. "Wait until I come back. I'll get it for you." After she left, I became curious. During the time I lived with her, she never let me go down to the basement. She's always looking for an excuse or something. So, I decided to check it out while she wasn't home, and this was it. The basement door was indeed locked, but after searching several places, I finally found the key hidden behind the kitchen drawer. When I opened the basement door, I smelled a very strong smell, like the smell of carrion. The basement looks like it hasn't been used in years. Everything was covered in thick dust. The concrete walls were nearly destroyed and the wooden steps were damp and brittle. When I got to the bottom, the stench was getting stronger. In the corner of the room, I saw a box containing an old video recorder and several videotapes in it. Curiosity enveloped me again. Then, I took the box and carried it upstairs. After plugging in the cable and turning it on, I inserted the first video cassette and pressed play. I shouldn't have done that. The video footage is very poor and choppy. In the darkness, I could barely see a man tied to a chair. Another figure stood nearby wearing a black mask and her body clad in shiny leather clothing. I instantly got goosebumps when I realized that someone dressed all in black was carrying a large axe. Suddenly, the figure raised its axe high and chopped off the arm of the man who was bound to the chair, blood spraying everywhere. The man screamed in pain. The cruel figure was now swinging her axe blindly. I watched it in horror. Each strike of the axe from the assailant dismembered the man so that her arms and legs scattered around her. The man was writhing in pain and her body was covered in blood. After carrying out the massacre, the assassin giggled like a child. With shaking hands, I turned off the video. A moment later, I heard a voice behind me. "So you have dared to go to my little secret place?" she asked, sounding threatening. I turned slowly. My wife was standing in front of the door. Her body was wrapped in a shiny black leather dress. In her hand, there was a large axe. She started giggling. I don't remember what happened after that. Maybe the neighbors next door heard my screams and they called the police. 4 police immediately came and broke down the front door. They managed to subdue my wife before she managed to kill me. Then they took me to the hospital. Of course, the attempted murder was tried afterwards. My wife was found guilty and the court sentenced her to death. I was present when she was executed. Just before they put my wife in the electric chair, they asked her if she had any last words. "It was all his fault," she shouted. "He should have never married me." Then, she giggled like a child again as the executor began to electrify her body. 5 minutes later, she was declared dead. Several years later, I still have nightmares about her. I've had several therapies and the doctor said that maybe only time will heal the terrible trauma I've been through. While I was in the hospital, I met an amazing woman. She is my nurse. Weeks and months passed, we finally fell in love. She is not the most beautiful woman I have ever met and she does not have a perfect body. She lost 1 eye and 3 fingers on her left hand due to a car accident. In addition to all that, she is a very attentive, loving, and golden-hearted person. Late summer, we married and lived together. When I was reading the newspaper, she opened and turned the page for me. When I feel itchy, she scratches it for me. She restored my faith back in a woman. But, when I lay in my bed late at night, sometimes, I still miss my hands and feet.